Hi, Horror Recapped here. Today, I'm going to explain a 1960s British horror film called Tomb of Ligeia. Spoilers ahead. Watch out and take care. The movie starts off with a group of 5 men all dressed in black carrying a coffin. When they get to the burial ground, we see it was one of the men's dead wife in the coffin. A priest and him begin to argue about whether she should be buried there. The priest claims she cannot be buried there because she wasn't a believer in faith. The dead woman's husband dismisses his complaints and states that she won't be resting with Christians because she's in fact not dead. His statement about her still being alive leaves them all speechless, and in the silence, his wife decides now is the perfect time for some fun. She opens her eyes for a second, and a startled cat screeches and jumps away. No surprise, it was a black cat. The man inspects his wife's corpse and concludes it was just a nervous contraction, no more, and then proceeds to taunt all the frightened men. And that's the title screen, and also the end of the beginning scene. After a beautiful intro credit sequence, you're greeted to a hunt. Men on horses chasing after their dogs who are chasing a fox. Quite a big squad for just one small fox. Here we are introduced to Christopher, one of the men on horseback, and a woman who he is meeting named Rowena. He gallantly runs up to Rowena to tell her about the fox, but she says she's found something much more intriguing. She prompts Christopher to follow, and he obliges. They make their way to some ruins where Rowena and her horse make an excellent jump over a stone wall, and Christopher, unable to work up the confidence to do so himself, chickens out. In this case, it was the rider's fault, not the horse's. Rowena goes through what we see to be a graveyard, and stumbles across none other than Ligeia's grave. She reads the name off the grave, and her horse throws her off. She wakes up to see the same black cat from earlier. She goes to touch it, and out comes none other than the dead woman's husband. Rowena sees him and screams. Her scream gives Christopher the inspiration he needs to finally make the jump. He does so, makes his way to the grave, and stumbles upon the black outfitted man and an unconscious Rowena. Christopher asks the unknown man what happened, and he not so convincingly reassures him.
Yes, quite all right, Christopher.
When Christopher looks up at the man, upon closer inspection of his face, he realizes it is an old friend of his named Verdon. Verdon apparently wears those extra spooky glasses due to an eye condition. Christopher, shocked to see the man, begins to ask him questions about how he's been. Verdon gets angry and suggests that Christopher fetches Rowena's horse. The group chats it up, and Rowena makes the situation very intimate as she puts one of Verdon's flowers in her jacket. Verdon picks her up and carries her from the graveyard into town, officially stealing Christopher's girl. She inquires about his eyes on the walk back to town. He tells her about his eye condition that makes him sensitive to light, and explains her the terrible pain it causes him. After hearing this, Rowena decides to respond in the most logical way. She rips off his glasses that are protecting him from the sun.
Oh no. No, please. Please, that light.
After seeing his pain in person, she gives him the glasses back and apologizes, saying she didn't know any better. I don't know what else she thought was gonna happen there. Verdon takes Rowena into his home, still carrying her, and lays her down. He's an extra spooky butler in an extra spooky house, with the same extra spooky black cat running around. Rowena actually points out the cat. While there, Rowena's dad bursts in asking if she's alright. Once her safety is assured with Verdon, he pulls out the fox they were hunting to show off. He shows it to Verdon and claims that he probably knows nothing about that since he's a doctor, not a hunter. Verdon responds to this by unloading some fox wisdom on the group. Rowena orders Christopher to tie her shoes. Her father goes to grab the fox so they can leave, but finds that it is no longer there. The fox thief turns out to be the cat. He ate it. Rowena and Verdon are to be married. She runs to his house and enters to find him sitting by the fire in a suit. He jumps up, walks towards her, and grabs her aggressively. She rips his glasses off his eyes in the scuffle. He notices that the girl is Rowena, his new bride, and lets go. He thought her to be his dead wife Ligeia. Verdon takes Rowena to the kitchen to make her some tea, after very sternly telling her to never come unannounced again. She questions if she looks like her. He feigns ignorance. The two share a deep conversation over some tea, with it ending in one another fighting. He asks her to leave, and when she doesn't want to at first, he grabs her and begins to be extremely creepy yet again. It's okay for Rowena though. What is a red flag for others apparently is attractive to her. They go to share a kiss when the same dastardly black cat comes from nowhere and attacks Rowena. Her face gets scratched and bloodied, and Verdon orders his butler to destroy the cat and to tend to Rowena's wounds. While the butler is cleaning up Rowena, Verdon walks in on Christopher, who is touching all of his expensive artwork. After Verdon does a little creepy flexing about the Egyptian statue eyes being wax, Christopher reminds him of why he's there. Verdon for some reason opens up to Christopher about him and Rowena almost making love, and that he was unsuccessful because of the stray cat, in which he failed to kill with a cabbage. Rowena interrogates the butler about Ligeia, whose answers are more than disappointing. Verdon and Christopher go on a walk to Ligeia's grave to see that it was defaced. The date of death was cut off the gravestone, and Verdon believes it a prophecy, while Christopher thinks it's the work of some prankster. Back to Rowena, her face looking a lot less painful, sees the cat again, and tries to grab Verdon's glasses which it's near. The cat takes the glasses and runs through the door in which it took the fox from earlier. Rowena follows and goes up a long way, and ends up at a giant bell that the cat tries to outplay her on. Rowena suddenly makes it across to the cat, and once again fails to grab the glasses. Verdon, while ranting about Ligeia to Christopher, realizes that it was he who cut the date from the stone. He hears the bell start to ring and he runs to a crying Rowena's aid, and he assures her that she is safe now, even though I'm not too sure how truthful that is.
You're safe now, my darling. You're safe with me.
After Verdon woos Rowena by becoming her hero, they get married within the day. A jealous Christopher watches as the happily wed couple rides away in a carriage. It is an emotional day for her father, the occasion bringing him the tears. The couple rides off to Stonehenge and talks about the history of it. The tour of Stonehenge lasts all day, with it being nightfall by the time they arrive home. The two plan to have a party tomorrow to celebrate their return and their leaving. He escorts her into her new home and introduces her to her newfound staff. Rowena, shocked by the amazing treatment she was getting, looks at Verdon, and he replies like a Chad that he will make sure she's comfortable. While getting in bed, Rowena hears a noise and discovers what appears to be another's hair in her brush. She runs to alert Verdon, but finds his room alone and the window open. Not a good look, Verdon. The next day, the cast is all seen eating dinner together at the party. Christopher and Verdon argue about his estate being mostly in Ligeia's name, and since there is no recorded time of death, he is worried people will take the estate. Verdon assures him that he will let no one touch Ligeia's grave, and the group starts to talk about hypnotism and its medical effects. The party guests ask for a demonstration, and Verdon sits them all down as he chooses Rowena to be his patient. She is more worried about his disappearance last night, but he ignores her silent complaint and begins to hypnotize her intensely. He addresses her and says that she may let go of his hands, and that when she does, he will be happy. Rowena lets go and begins to smile and tries to reach with no avail at butterflies that aren't there. At her failed attempt, she begins to cry, but starts singing a song her mother used to sing, and it eases her sadness. Her relief is short-lived as Rowena gets possessed by someone or something that speaks to Verdon. Verdon ends the demonstration and gets Rowena to bed, who asks him not to leave her once again tonight. He declines her request and goes to his room. Rowena has one nightmarish dream, where one of her maids hands her the fox's corpse from earlier, and the cat is back. He might be gone in the waking world, but he lives rent-free in Rowena's head. He chases her, and she ends up escaping through a door that led her onto a bed of roses. She examines her surroundings and takes note of all the decor. She notices a mirror and approaches. The cat once again scares her, prompting her to spin around. She turns back around after seeing the cat gone, and in front of her is now Verdon. They embrace and kiss one another, but Verdon ends up biting her neck? This isn't a vampire movie, is it? Rowena wakes up and the dead fox is on top of her, and she gets up to go find Verdon, who she sees standing out of the window. She questions him of his whereabouts, and he says he was just alone. She wonders why he has a plate of food if he was alone, but the butler handles her concerns. Verdon promptly sends her off to bed with the butler so he can get the fox, but the fox is now gone once again. The next morning, Rowena is seen complaining about her husband and his new strange habits. She eats alone and sleeps alone. She barely sees him. She believes it's because she herself isn't his wife. Ligeia is. Christopher says it is just a legal matter, but Rowena is adamant that Ligeia is alive, and that she is whom Verdon has been sneaking off to see. It's now dinner time, and Rowena decides to melt some wax onto her food. She uses her palm to put the candle out, and it catches the eye of the butler. She demands to have him get her husband, but he cannot do so. Christopher enters and begins to interrogate the butler about Verdun and his whereabouts. He also asks him about Ligeia's whereabouts too, which makes the butler gasp. Christopher thinks it's because he is lying, but the butler blames his reaction on the question being a strange one. Christopher torments him into crying, and he runs off. Christopher plans to dig up Ligeia's grave, and he orders Rowena to lock herself in her room. He and his men, armed with shovels, go to the graveyard and begin to dig up the grave in a lightning storm. Rowena, locked in her room, hears the cat start to claw on her door rapidly. She touches the door and it stops, but she hears one last meow, this time inside the room. She goes to inspect a plant of hers, and out from behind jumps the cat. Another chase ensues while Christopher finishes digging. Rowena falls down some stairs and gets up to realize she is in the room she dreamt about. The mirror shatters and reveals a secret room behind. Christopher opens the now revealed coffin with a lantern and sees Ligeia's body, which immediately lights on fire. Turns out that the body was made of wax, just like the statue from earlier. Someone startles Christopher, but it turns out to be the butler, who urges him to hurry. Back to Rowena, and in the secret room out comes a messy looking Verdun. Rowena calls his name, but he doesn't answer. She goes to look behind the curtain at the bed, and upon pulling back the curtain, sees Ligeia's real body. She falls on top of her body and starts to freak out. Christopher and the butler come in to explain to Rowena that Verdun doesn't remember his nights with Ligeia. He is bound by her will, and every time someone tries to tell him about his nights, he freezes up and forgets. Rowena takes a lesson from Verdun and begins to hypnotize him. She hypnotizes him to remember Ligeia's death. She says she wants a place to rest. Rowena falls down on Verdun, leaving behind a trail of blood. Rowena is dead, says Verdun, and he goes, picks up, and throws Ligeia's body into the flames. He instructs the rest to all leave him alone with his wife as he picks up Rowena's body and lays her where Ligeia once laid. The cat once again, like it did in the intro, jumps on Rowena, and he thinks her to be alive. He looks at her and then kisses her. While walking out of the room, he hears the curtain to the bed open, and out comes Ligeia. He jumps at her and kills her. Christopher and the butler come back because of the noise and see him holding a murdered Rowena. The two get yelled at to take Rowena and leave, and a battle between Verdun and the cat ensues. The cat scratches his eyes out, and he is unsuccessful in finding the cat blind. He accidentally knocks over wood into the fire, and his estate lights ablaze. He tries to run and escape, all while the cat mauls him. Verdun chokes the cat to death while everything around is burning. Christopher is in the carriage, leaving with Rowena's body. He lifts up her mask, and she is now back to life. She greets Christopher, and they kiss. The house burns down on top of Verdun and Ligeia's body. The movie ends here with a quote from Edgar Allan Poe, whose poem Ligeia was the movie's basis. The boundaries which divide life from death are at best shadowy and vague. Who shall say where the one ends and the other begins? Poe. Thank you all for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought about the ending. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on notifications, and leave a like to help the channel out.